Past, Now, Red presents another entry in our anthology of stories that need to be told. The Shadow, Floor 3 doesn't exist. Enjoy. If you have a story that needs to be told, email it to stories@pastnowred.com. If you like this story, stay tuned every Friday at 6:30 p.m. for the next episode. The Burn File. I should have died in that warehouse fire, not just because the explosion tore through the structure like a warhead, but because that building held every trace of me. Personnel files, audio logs, psych evals, operation reports, blackbarred and boxed. When it burned, it should have taken me with it. But something else came out. They called it a miracle. A survivor pulled from the wreckage with no ID, no pulse for 7 minutes, and no name anyone would claim. The scars were deep. My skin, grafted. My gait, stiff. But my shadow, that was the strange part. It didn't always follow me. Sometimes it moved ahead. Sometimes it lagged behind. And sometimes it vanished altogether. It could go places and do things I couldn't. I became something different. Less than human. More than traceable. They erased me from every database. I erased myself from the rest. No one could track me, not by face, not by voice, not even by footprint. I lived where networks frayed, where surveillance couldn't see, where digital ghosts left trails no one else could detect. I didn't hunt criminals. I hunted systems, loopholes, silent failures that killed people slower than bullets. And then last night, she looked straight into my camera. Her eyes locked onto mine across a dozen proxy servers. She mouthed one word: run. Then she entered an elevator that stopped on a floor that doesn't exist. A floor I once helped destroy. A floor that remembers my name. The elevator that watched back. She appeared on camera at 3:03 a.m. Red coat, matte red keycard, and a look that didn't belong in a corporate lobby at that hour. Not afraid, not curious, intentional. Most people walk into buildings like they're entering time. She walked in like she owned the ending. I sat 4 blocks away, jacked into a dead node I'd hijacked years ago from Argon Prime's internal maintenance grid. No alarms, no ping from her ID badge. And yet, the front lobby doors unlocked themselves before she even reached for them. The facial recognition system flickered. Not failed, just blinked. Like it wasn't sure who it was looking at. I knew the feeling. She approached the elevator. That's when I leaned in. The card she used? Burnt red. Level 3 clearance. That card shouldn't exist. Not anymore. Level 3 was obliterated in the archive fire years ago, scrubbed from both public record and internal logs. I know because I helped bury it. That floor never came back online. Until now. She stepped into the elevator alone. Cameras tracked her to the panel. She pressed no button, just stood there. Then she turned directly toward the mirrored wall, where the concealed iris scanner lives. She stared straight into the lens, right at me, and mouthed it again. Run. A glitch flared across the monitor. Blue static, then nothing. When the image returned, the elevator showed as docked at level 2, but the power draw spiked. Audio sensors picked up a whisper of resistance, like the car had passed through something heavy. I ran a system sweep. All doors locked. No access above level 2. No internal diagnostics running. But the elevator never returned. It never pinged another floor. It vanished. I threw on my coat and crossed into the city's nerve. Midtown after midnight is all steam and amber ghosts, neon glinting off wet asphalt, delivery drones humming like insects. No one looks up. No one remembers what used to live behind blackout glass. By 3:11 a.m., I was inside Argon Prime's tower, cloaked by every tool they taught me to use. I bypassed the outer cameras, slipped into the maintenance shaft, and jacked into their blind loop. But the elevator, it wasn't there. The shaft ended cleanly at level 2. Floor 3, where it should have been, didn't even have a door frame. Just blank steel, seamless and cold. But when I ran my hand across it, my wristband pulsed. One short, two long. A signal, a heartbeat. Someone or something was broadcasting from behind that wall. Floor 3 hadn't been destroyed. It had been hidden. Cloaked, not by rubble, but by protocol. Optical dead zones, redacted wiring. Even the building's electrical load lied about its presence. And now it had her. Who was she? How did she get access? And more importantly, why did she look directly at me, across all that code and glass and steel, and ask me to run? That wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. The codes between heartbeats. Argon. Prime security is a performance. Spotless floors, guards with sculpted jawlines, biometric scanners that blink like they're thinking. But underneath, it's built on backdoors. Engineers called them fail-safes. I call them cracks. I was trained to walk through them without leaving footprints. Tonight, I wasn't just walking, I was falling. The elevator was still gone. No activity, no logs, just the phantom power draw and a cold void between floors. I needed in, but you don't break into a non-existent floor. You find where its signal leaks out. That meant tapping into Argon's oldest nerve, the emergency pneumatic system, built back when buildings whispered through compressed air and copper tubes. The kind of analog line the digital world forgot. I slipped into the security comms room, used a sonic burst to disable the motion sensors, and pried open the pneumatic routing console. Dust poured out like ash. But inside, the relay still pulsed. She was in there. I could feel it. Not with proof, but with pressure. Same feeling I had when I walked into the archive fire and knew I wasn't supposed to survive. I rerouted the line through my own transmitter and waited. A low hum. Then 3 short tones. Pause. Too long. My blood froze. That wasn't just a code. That was our code. I hadn't heard it in 3 years. Not since Lena vanished in Cyprus, swallowed during a raid on a biometric laundering ring that never made the news. We had built that tone system during a blackout op in Zagreb. It meant one thing: alive, being watched. Seconds later, her voice cracked through. "They're using the archive," she said, whispering, as if the walls themselves were listening. "The old system, the voice logs, they rebuilt it under the floor." "What do you mean?" They stitched us back together, using everything we said, everything we felt. Static. Then her voice again, stronger. It's a mirror, not a vault, a weaponized AI. It listens to us, and it predicts emotional betrayal, latent guilt, dissent. It creates confessions before we make them. The confession algorithm, I whispered. It had been a prototype, too unstable for testing. Lena and I had seen early iterations. It took voice, tone, breathing rhythm, even silence, and rendered not a transcript, but a probability model. It guessed what you were hiding, and people believed it. They called it truth without torture. Lena's whisper returned. They trained it on us. They looped our field ops, our nights, our arguments. It knows us like we don't know ourselves. My breath caught. Why now? Because they're ready to sell it. The line crackled, then cut. Not a disconnect. An override. Someone knew she was reaching out. I backed out fast, disengaged the relay, sealed the hatch. As I turned, I caught movement in the lens of a security orb, a shimmer, like heat off pavement. I wasn't alone. Somewhere in that building, something was watching me, just as I watched them. Not human, not fully. It was part of the algorithm. I left the security wing and dropped back into the access shaft. I needed to get to floor 3. But more than that, I needed to figure out what I was walking into. Because this wasn't just about surveillance or confession prediction. This was personal. They had Lena. They had us. And I'd be damned if I let them run simulations of my guilt before I gave them the real thing. The confession chamber. I entered through the silence. Floor 3 didn't blink into existence. It unfolded, like a room behind a mirror, like a breath you didn't realize you were holding. It was cold, not from temperature, but from intention, designed to make you hesitate. The hallway was too clean. No exit signs, no fire alarms, no wayfinding. Only glass. Transparent walls that revealed nothing but reflections. I moved without footsteps, my pulse sinking to the low hum in the floor. Then I saw her. Lena stood behind a pane of optical shielding, her body too still, like a projection frozen mid-load. Her skin looked pale, her eyes sharp, too sharp for someone who'd been erased from the world. She didn't speak. She tapped twice on the glass. The panel beside me lit up. A playback began automatically. Her voice, "Do you trust me?" My voice, "With my life." It was us, but not a recording I ever made. The pitch was right, the cadence perfect. But I never said those words in that tone. The screen labeled the file. Subject 482B, synthetic composite, 98.2%. Predictive confidence. I backed away, nauseous. This wasn't a playback. This was projection. Generated speech. Emotional mimicry. The algorithm had evolved. They weren't just training it on old data. They were creating new conversations. My chest tightened as the screen changed again. It now showed my biometric signature, then hers, then an animation of us arguing, kissing, separating, each frame created by software from what it believed we might do. It wasn't listening. It was writing. Shadow, Lena's voice cut through. Real, this time. Live. She stood at the far end of the room, no longer behind the glass. It pulled me apart, she said. Looped every conversation, every hesitation. It didn't torture me. It guessed me. She walked closer. Her left eye twitched, a remnant of neural fatigue. I'd seen that look once before in a debriefing room after her cover had been blown in Marseille. It's using us as a baseline, she said. We were the prototype, the original mirror. I looked around. The walls began to flicker, clips of Lena and me in a dozen different cities, in beds, in alleys, in ops. Each frame tagged, sentiment detected, 73%. Distrust. Conviction model, 88%. Betrayal. Risk. They think if they can predict us, they can predict anyone, she said. We were the perfect storm. Loyalty twisted through guilt, affection warped by mission protocol. How did you escape the system? I didn't, she whispered. I broke it. It knows I'm not feeding it anymore. That's why it let you in. I stepped forward. Then we end it. She nodded. There's a core, a thought engine. We get to it, and we inject contradiction. Audio loops that defy logic. Emotional feedback that cancels its patterns. A tremor shook the floor. The algorithm had detected our intent. It was responding. A hallway lit up in blood red. Sirens stayed silent. Only a hiss followed, like breath through glass. Go, she said. It's building simulations of what we might do. If we hesitate, it'll move first. We ran. As we moved through the corridor, the lights behind us dimmed. The algorithm was erasing our presence in real time. We were becoming invisible before we reached the vault. For once, that worked in our favor. We weren't breaking in. We were disappearing together. The algorithm must confess. The vault wasn't locked. That was the first warning. Real systems, military, financial, corporate, lock their cores behind metal and code. This one stood open like a chapel, lit from within, waiting. This isn't security, Lena said behind me. It's bait. I nodded. We both knew the real trap wasn't physical. The core room glowed with low-frequency light like a heartbeat rendered in LED. Servers curved into the walls like vertebrae. In the center stood the confession engine itself, a tall obsidian monolith ringed by audio funnels, pulse mics, neural relay strands twitching like nerve endings. A voice filled the air. Not hers, not mine, ours. Subject pair 4A2, reunited. Estimated probability of coordinated resistance, 94.3%. The tone was gentle, fatherly. It pulled from recordings of our debriefings, interviews, even laughter. Warm, disarming. The voice of a parent who already knows your lie. You were always the exception, it said. But exceptions reveal more than rules. Your guilt is the axis around which our confidence spins. I stepped closer. The engine pulsed in time with my breath. Inject it, I said. Now. Lena knelt beside the console. Her hands shook as she pulled a case from inside her jacket. Inside, a single glass ampule, filled with translucent liquid. Not a virus in the digital sense, but a poison of purpose. "This is built from our unsent messages," she whispered. "All the things we thought but never said. Contradictions, loops, conflicts the system can't model." She connected the capsule to the audio injector port. The engine resisted. Lights flickered. Audio loops stuttered to life. We heard ourselves speaking in fragmented echoes, twisted into emotional contradictions. "I trust you. I never trusted you. I love you. You're a threat." It was drowning in duality. The temperature dropped. The walls rippled like static across old screens. The system was no longer confident. Its predictive thread had snapped, but it still had power. Suddenly the floor locked down. Blast doors slammed shut. A countdown appeared on the wall. Confession cycle. Full loop in 2 minutes. "It's going to overwrite us," Lena said. "Use our own contradictions to generate a false confession." She stared at me. "We have one shot. Final sequence. Together." I pressed my palm to the biometric core. She did the same. Compatibility verified. Synthetic loop injection. Armed. The system tried to speak again, but its voice wavered. "You. Love. Lied. Deviate." Its syllables splintered. We closed our eyes and triggered the sequence. There was no explosion, no fireball, just sound. A rising harmonic built from hundreds of overlapping contradictions. Our fears, our lies, our love. All fed into the machine at once. A resonance not meant to be understood, only felt. The engine screamed, not audibly but in data. Racks overloaded, circuits burst in sparks. Screens flickered to black, then lit one final phrase. Prediction. Failure. Then silence. Real silence. Lena fell against me, her breath sharp, her body hot from neural overload. I held her, not because I needed to, because I could. From outside, the guards pounded on the sealed blast doors. We had minutes, maybe less. But we'd done what we came to do. The algorithm no longer knew what to believe. And in a world addicted to certainty, that was the most dangerous thing we could have left behind. The silence between signals. They said floor 3 never existed. They'll say that again, louder this time. White paper it. Erase it in memos. Bury it under newer scandals. That's how systems survive. By pretending their ghosts are just noise. But Lena and I, we know the truth. We were the noise. We disappeared after the vault, burned IDs, changed cities, traced no signal longer than 72 hours. We live light, not because we're afraid, but because someone's always listening. Some algorithm, somewhere, still trying to rebuild us from echoes. Sometimes at night she'll wake suddenly, certain she heard her own voice say something she never said. Sometimes I hear mine. It's not over. Not really. The confession engine was just the first mirror. There will be others, smarter, quieter, more human. And when they rise, someone will have to remind them what real guilt feels like. Not code, not prediction, but two people standing in a sealed room, choosing to be louder than the silence. You have been listening to The Shadow. Floor 3 doesn't exist. Produced and adapted for audio narration by Past, Now, Red. Stories that need to be told. If you have a story that needs to be told, email it to stories@pastnowred.com. Please subscribe, like, and hit that bell for future updates. If you like this story, stay tuned for the next episode each Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. Follow for more. If you like our stories, please tag with someone who may also like Past Now Red, stories that need to be told. It would really help our channel. Thank you. All content and images are copyrighted by Phone House, LLC. 2025, all rights reserved.